Hi, and welcome to Esther's Gardening Adventures. I'm Esther, and today I'm going to be talking about whether it's ever too cold to put your jugs outside when you're winter sowing. And before I get going on this, let me say that if this is your first time hearing about winter sowing, or you're interested in learning more about it, please check out my Winter Sowing 101 series where I break down everything you need to know about winter sowing. All right, so I recently noticed I'm on a couple of Facebook winter sowing groups, and I recently noticed that people are asking questions, even on like my channel, on this channel, we're asking, is it too cold? It's going to be -30 or whatever tonight, or we're going to have a snowstorm. Should I put them out on top of the snow? And I was like, where is this question coming from? So before I get to answering it, let me remind you of the things I've said so far in my Winter Sowing 101 series, which is the whole point of winter sowing is to put your jugs out when it's cold, when it's in the winter, and that the seeds will be in stasis. They will not germinate. They will be in stasis until the temperature is warm enough for them to germinate and to grow into seedlings. And at that point, a freak freeze is an issue and you want to put a blanket over your jugs. But the whole idea is this glorious thing about them being out in the cold for months and hassle-free. And so this question turns out, now I don't know who this person is or anything about them, and I am not saying anything about their reputation or anything about whether they're authority on stuff. But I will tell you from my own experience and from talking with people who have done winter sowing for years that this master gardener said, I hope I'm getting this right, that if you have jugs outside or you're putting them outside and they're not insulated by the snow, that you should take them and put them in like a unheated shed or garage or something like that during the extremely cold temperatures. And if you have any guess from what I was just saying a couple seconds ago, this is not true. It is, let me be clear, it is never too cold to winter sow. I'm gonna say it again. It is never too cold to winter sow, okay? Now, yes, it's great when your jugs are insulated by the snow, but your seeds are in stasis. They are not going anywhere. They're just sitting there in the jugs waiting for their genetic code to be told by the temperatures that it's warm enough for them to germinate. And I'm going to give you an example of proof of this. One is nature. Before humankind came along, seeds were germinating just fine on their own in all kinds of temperatures. And even now, there are plenty of plants that are warm weather plants that self-sow. Their seeds sit in the ground. I mean, it's snowing outside right now. Their seeds sit in the ground. I had some Mexican sunflowers that I grew 2 years ago. And last year, and they like the warm weather. They do not like the cold weather, okay? 2 years ago, they self-germinated, and this last summer I had some beautiful volunteer Mexican sunflowers. They did just fine without even anything to protect them around them in the ground. So think about that. And there's a ton of seeds out there that are meant to have a period of cold. In fact, it's called winter stratification. There's a ton of seeds and plant types out there that need cold, in fact, in order to have the genetic prompting of temperatures to then germinate. So I hope I'm not being too emphatic here, but there is never a time when you shouldn't put your jugs out because it's too cold. Now, the one exception here is if it's just too cold for you personally. I mean, there are times when it's so cold and so windy and so not comfortable out there, and I have gear, but I don't want to get loaded up in it and all of that, then I'm not going to do some winter sowing on that day. And that's perfectly fine. Maybe I'll do some dreaming or planting or doing journaling or something around my garden instead that day. But really, there's no reason you shouldn't put your jugs outside in any time in the winter. The only time, like I said, that you need to worry about it is when the seeds have sprouted. And at that point, you have seedlings. You can look in the jugs and see you have seedlings. And if you're going to have a really cold night or a couple of nights, put a heavy blanket on top of those jugs, take it off in the morning so they don't get smothered or burned by being overheated, and put the blanket back on at night again. Worst case scenario, the only time I've ever had to take jugs indoors was when in late May we had a freak frost, and I had not transplanted my tomatoes and peppers and zucchini and other things yet out of the jugs, and they were they were growing out of the jug so much there's no way I could have gotten them back inside. I had opened them to ventilate for a couple of days, and then I saw the weather was going to be cold, and I couldn't fit them back in the jug, and so I put them in my cellar on the top of the staircase, which is an outside facing entrance, and so it's just a couple degrees warmer than the outside. But really, you don't ever need to take your seedlings at this stage of the process indoors. And please, for the love of God, do not take your jugs into a heated area either. They will be fine. And if you take them into a heated area and you take them back outside into the cold, they will be more suffering. They will suffer even more than they would have if you just left them alone. All right, I hope I'm not being too intense for you here, but I'm just a little bit frustrated by this, and I feel bad for all of you who are getting these concerns that you don't need to. Trust the process, trust what I've taught you, trust what you're hearing from experts who have done it and successfully done it for a very long time. And let me know what you think. If you have any follow-up questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. And I wish you the best luck with your sowing. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, please hit that like button. If you aren't already a subscriber, please consider doing so, and make sure you have the alarm turned on so you're alerted when I post new videos. All right. Thanks for sticking around through this rant. I'll see you next time.